Welcome. How's everybody doing today?
Magnificent.
Well, we are in a series and it's basically based on the things that Jesus never said. And it's important that we basically talk about the things Jesus never said because many of us, we look at our lives and we think, he should have said this. This should have been in. This should have been what he should have said. But we're talking about the things he didn't say. And a lot of us, we live our lives thinking that Jesus said certain things, and then we're disappointed with God, and we're disappointed in how things are turning out because we're using a false perception of what Jesus really said. And so today, we're going to look at one of the more painful ones today. And so get ready to bring out your tissues and stuff like that because we're talking about Jesus never said you wouldn't have a bad day. Can everybody confirm that they've had bad days? But doesn't it seem, though, that why would God want us to have bad days? I give my life to Christ. I did that. I heard all these cool promises. And then here I am. I just lost my job. Here I am. I just lost my girlfriend. Here I am. I just lost my spouse. Here I am. Health issues. This doesn't seem like it correlates or corresponds with what God should be like. It doesn't seem God-like that I would have to go through. I mean, I'm giving everything I have to you, God. I mean, come on. I'm giving you what I have. But then bad stuff happens. So we're just going to look at some of the things that God did not say. And one of them he did not say is that you would not have bad days. Now, I have several ways we could go today, and I'm not sure which one you're going to hear. It's really going to depend on you and how you respond to things. And so if you guys are interactive and have some fun, we're going to go a fun way. If you guys are kind of dry and sit there and look at me like I'm crazy, then I'm just going to sit here and talk for 25, 35, 45 minutes. So it's up to you. We're going to look at a passage out of John 16. Listen to this. I'm going to start your day off so bright. Very truly I tell you, you will weep and mourn while the world rejoices. Wow, am I starting your day off just bright and shiny and special? Now think of that passage. Look at this. Very truly, I tell you, this is Jesus speaking. This would be in red text if you were to open in your Bibles. Very truly, I tell you, you will weep and mourn while the world rejoices. How is that fair? Why does the world get to rejoice and I have to weep? It doesn't seem fair. You know, and the world rejoices mostly because the world will do whatever it takes to get to fun and pleasure. The world will take shortcuts. The world will take the quickest way to get there. And so the world gets to enjoy the best of the best right away. There's no delay. They get what they want immediately. But that's not what Jesus said we're going to get. It says, very truly, you will weep and mourn. And it's this dichotomy of things that kind of makes our Christian faith kind of a struggle. And if it's a struggle for us, think about if you're a non-believer. If you're sitting in the room right now, you really don't know if you understand the whole Jesus thing. You don't know if you're really bought in. And I'm sitting here putting on the screens, Jesus says, you're going to weep and mourn. Well, they have fun. Well, they get to do cool stuff. I'm going to weep and mourn. That's not a really good sales pitch. I'm in sales. That is not a great sales pitch to someone. Come with me. You're going to weep and mourn. Join me. You're like, I'm getting out of here. But this is this dilemma, this reality that we face when we talk about what Jesus really did say compared to what we want him to say, what we wish he would have said. We wish that he would have said, hey, follow me and you will never get a zit on prom night. Follow me and you'll never lose your hair. Follow me and you always look good in a bathing suit. That's what we want to hear. That's what we want to hear. That's what we think God should take care of that stuff for us. It's not what we get. So as we kind of talk through this day, I want to share with you just some things in life, but I also want to share, we're going to do a little bit of a case study at the end, and it's going to be a case study of my last 3 or 4 weeks. So if we could get enough time, we're going to get there. We'll see how it goes. Here's when we finish the rest of this passage. It's very truly, I tell you, you will weep and mourn while the world rejoices. You will grieve, but your grief will turn to joy. Now, okay, I'm liking this part. This is getting much better. This is a much better sales pitch to non-believers, isn't it? Look at the example. A woman giving birth to a child has pain because her time has come. But when her baby is born, she forgets the anguish because of her joy that a child is born into the world. Now, I'll be honest, when our daughter Samantha was born, they dragged me in there. I wanted to be the guy who sat out in the waiting room with the cigars and stuff, like handed out cigars. That was my intentions that day, but they go, no, you got to come back. And I'm like, no, don't make me go, don't make me go. And I had to go in there because I saw things I can't unsee. And my poor wife, she had to push and do all that contraction stuff and all that kind of craziness going on. But our daughter was just not coming out correctly, so we had to do an emergency C-section. They rushed her to this room. And at this point in time, I will say, Jen, I saw her go through a lot of pain, but then they put her on the morphine, and she's like, la, la, la. I'm looking over this curtain, and I'm seeing them slice my wife open, and she's like, la, la, la. And I'm like, so like I said, I saw things. I would rather have been in the waiting room chilling out. And then they brought my daughter out, and I'm like, oh, she's gray. Who do I know that's gray? What's been going on here? Which one of our friends is gray-skinned? I don't know any gray-skinned friends. They're like, she's not breathing yet. I'm like, oh, then I'm like panicking, and I'm about ready to pass out. And they take her over, and they like kind of swab her up and everything, and all of a sudden, wah! And she hasn't stopped for 17 years now. But we love it. And we love it. So that is this thing that's like, I didn't go through all the physical pain, but I went through the anguish as well. I didn't go through the after the C-section, probably worse than even the other, because I'm telling you, it was just painful to watch. But we would never have traded any of that for the joy of our daughter. And even this, think about this. 3 years later, we had another one. All that pain was forgotten. You forget about the pain, but it prepared you for the next time. Next time wasn't as big of a deal. Well, not for me. So I kind of knew how it worked. So it's just this idea that there are moments and things that create pain in our lives, but in the end, something that is birthed out of it is beneficial and eternal, and something that builds into our character, builds into who we are, builds into what we can use later. And that's what we're talking about today, is how do we take something that seems so the worst day of people's lives and make something and gain something out of it of value. And so that is kind of our idea. The Bible goes on and says this. It goes, so with you, now is your time of grief, but I will see you again, and you will rejoice, and no one will take away your joy. Isn't that cool? Goes on and says this. There's another passage. Says this. It says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace in this world. And that's the promise. And that is what we have to figure out, though. Because I know that some of you in this room, you are having not just a bad day, you're having a bad week, a bad month, a bad year. Some of you are still grieving about bad days you had 3 years ago. Some of you have real legit things. We joke about having zits on prom night and stuff like that. Some of you have dealt with job loss, spouses that have left you, abandoned you, disagreements with family. Some of you have dealt with death, losing a loved one, losing a parent, with losing your child. And so when we talk about bad days, what's the struggle that we run into is this, is my bad day compared to your bad day. It's hard to talk about this without sounding flippant. Because certain things that I struggle with, I mean, I've lost 2 jobs. I got fired from 2 different churches. Try that. They were the first one, devastating. Self-inflicted, devastating. Second time I got fired, wasn't a big deal. It was actually a release, a relief. It was actually like, yes, we need to move on and do something different. The first one prepared me for the second one. And so this is why I don't want to be flippant today, because I know some of you guys are dealing with some very legit bad days. And so we have to figure out, how do we reconcile this with this dichotomy? Because as the passage started laying out, is this dichotomy in this world versus in me. Jesus speaking in me, meaning that those who are followers of me, those who believe in me, those who understand the sacrifice I made for you, versus how the world lives. And that is a dichotomy we have to kind of wrestle with and figure out. Because around us, we look around, we watch Facebook, and everybody else has a really good life. Those pictures are awesome. Did you see where they went on vacation? That was awesome. I want to go there someday. And most of us are sitting back going, I can't believe those people. How do they afford to do that? They must be, there's both bitterness in us even. Jen and I were talking about what would real life Facebook look like. What if your camera, and they have this thing called Be Real the kids use a lot, and it's basically like, it goes bing, and you're supposed to take a picture immediately. So here's what normally happens though. Bing, let me fix my hair, run into a mirror, put on some cool clothes. And it's called Be Real. But we all know that if your really was a snapshot of your life at any moment in the daytime, you probably wouldn't want to share it on Facebook. You probably wouldn't want it shared. It would be the raw truth of your life. So that's kind of one of the things. So in this world, you will have trouble. You will. Pain is a promise. Struggle is certain. Suffering in this world is inevitable. Welcome to Life Change Church today.
Hope you come back next week.
Yeah. Hope you all come back. Well, let's kind of talk about this a little bit. I want to share a personal one, and we're going to go the personal route here. Okay, here we go. So 3 weeks ago, we were at the Craig Park for our 3 or 4 weeks ago for our family get-together, family gathering pickup. There was a homeless gentleman there. And we had asked him if he could move just his stuff off the shelter house because we needed some more tables. We offered him food, and he refused until I sat and talked with him a good hour and a half. At the end of the day, he took some food. Everything was great. And I kept asking him, what's your exit plan? What's your exit plan from being homeless? He told me what got him there. His roommate died. I assume his roommate probably had the place, and when his roommate died, he was out because he wasn't on the lease. And he was living in the shelter house. He was over 60, he's like 65 or so, maybe a little bit older. Kind of a round guy and kind of not really able to walk around much. And spent a lot of time talking to him, and I gave him his number because I wanted to figure out an exit plan for him. Because I like to fix things. Anybody else here if you're a fixer? You're a fixer. That's kind of your job. You like fixing things. I like fixing stuff. And I'm usually decent at it. You give me a problem, I will try again. You might not like my solution, but I will I'll fix it somehow. And we had a plan A in place, and everything was going great. Matter of fact, you guys, some of the money that you guys give each week went to help him go to a Motel 6 until this apartment was going to open up for him. And I checked to verify with the apartment, made sure everything was good to go. Well, after I put him into the Motel 6, a day or so later that day, they found out that he had an eviction from a couple years ago. And that eviction, because he owes money to them that he never was able to pay, they won't let him move into the place he was supposed to go. So some of you also gave this gentleman money that day. So between the money some of you gave him personally, the money I gave him and the church gave him, he was able to stay in Motel 6 for about 2 weeks. And there was different ideas and ways trying to figure out how to help him, but nothing really came to fruition. His name is David. You might actually meet him someday. And David has 2 dogs. And David has these 2 dogs, and David has a cart, and all of his belongings are in a cart, and I gave him a suitcase, an old suitcase the other day, so now it's in a cart and a suitcase. And I'm just going to tell you, after, obviously living out and under a shelter house at Greenwood, Craig Park, the odors were bad. Everything smelled. The dogs are not in good health. And so, but David will not part with these dogs. But the fact that David will not part with these 2 dogs keeps him from being eligible for a lot of different shelters. It keeps him from being able to go into certain apartments and assisted living places because he has the 2 dogs. And he has all this stuff. Moved David into Motel 6. And we get to the end of, he was out of money. He was out of everything. It's a bad day. The reason I share this story isn't just for David. Here's the fact that normally happens when we talk about bad days, when you're having a bad day. It normally melts out into or starts impacting the people around you as well. And this is the battle. So David's bad day became my bad days. Now, here's my problem. And this is the struggle we all have with bad days. My bad day was I lost 4 deals in a matter of 2 days which cost me a lot financially. And then I get a call from David, who's sleeping. I had to go pick up and take him back to the park where I found him. So my bad day, his bad day, whose is worse? Your bad day to you is a bad day. Compared to someone else's, your bad day might not seem as bad. And this is this battle that all of us wrestle with. And sometimes we build up guilt. And I'll be honest, this has been a battle for me emotionally. I didn't even know if there was going to be a chance to be able to talk about some of this stuff because emotionally, I have not been able to sleep well knowing that I'm going to bed in my bed and he is going to bed on a park bench. How do we deal with this stuff? How do we deal with it? But here's the issue. The bad day that you're having is legitimate. And we can't always compare ourselves completely to other people. How funny. People wanted my attention even while I'm up here. So this battle with David has been going in my world. But here's the issue. The bottom line of everyone's bad day is not a battle of just your circumstances. It's a battle between the world and living a life in me, as Jesus would say. It's the battle between what is really, there was no guarantee that David would have a house in his life. There was no guarantee that God said, you're going to have lots of money, you're going to have a pretty car, you're going to have everything's perfect in your world. There was no guarantee. And what God is trying, what Jesus says, he says, your circumstances of your life might be very poor. They might be not ideal. The things that you're dealing with are legit and real. But I can give you a peace and a joy that transcends it. And so in my heart, I've been wrestling with this David thing. Could I fix this problem? With a bunch of money, yes, for a while. I don't know what got David ultimately in this position. Was it bad choices 20 years ago? Was it health issues that kicked up that were out of his control? And that is something that we deal with. Some of our bad days are, let's be honest, they're self-inflicted. My first firing was self-inflicted. Some of the things that you're struggling with now are because of decisions you made 25 years ago, 2 weeks ago. They're self-inflicted. But yet we blame God. God, this isn't going how I planned. God, this isn't what I wanted. God, this isn't what I thought you were going to do for me. I tried out the God thing. God didn't answer my prayers because he didn't give me a car. He didn't get me into grad school. He didn't give me that girl that I really liked. And so we have to break away these physical circumstances of our lives and understand it's a dichotomy. This is the worldly stuff that we struggle with. These are the worldly things that we base bad days on. And Jesus went straight through the middle of it and said, what's really important is, are you in me? Because I can make you happy and give you peace in the midst of your circumstances. I can bring joy to you during the moments when you don't believe there can be joy. But you have to believe it. And that's the battle. If I get back to something close to where my notes were at, here's what I want to tell you. These trials prove your faith. They're the thing that makes you know where you really stand. And I'll be honest, I've been struggling because when David calls me, I don't want to answer the phone anymore. It's a wrestle. I'm wrestling. It's a battle. I don't want to take his calls. Because you know what? I don't want to hear where he's sleeping. Matter of fact, I'll tell you what happened. I'm prepping this message last night at 11 p.m. I should say earlier David called and said the police are there to throw him out of the park at Greenwood Park. And so he had to leave. They took him, put him in the back of a truck, or they put him in a car, they took all the stuff in a truck, and they dumped him at Madison and County line, basically into Marion County. And so David last night, so he's not sleeping on a bench last night. David is sleeping in a field. He slept in a field last night. And I started getting texts about 11 o'clock that, hey, I need an air mattress. I need a tent. I need rope. It's 11 o'clock at night. What do you do? What do you do? See, the problem is, the worldly problem is so big, I can't solve it. I can't fix it. And this is the struggle we have when some of us have bad days, or we see our family members having bad days, is sometimes we can't fix it because we only can fix the physical. Jesus fixes the heart. And so when we look at that, it changes how we have to address and approach things. If I was close to my notes, this is what I would have told you. It proves your faith. Where do you really stand with your faith? Because here's the issue many of us run into. Many of us, and I was a pastor for all these years. I feel like I've done somewhat of a good job in life. But I am wrestling with how to respond. Some of us would have already blocked him. I want to. Because I don't want to think about it anymore. Thinking about his issues brings me down even further. And I don't like being brought down. But it's reality. Your bad days are impacting your family's days. And unless we look at the deeper spiritual issues going on and within us, that you might be able to find joy even in the midst of the bad day you're having, you're going to bring down the people around you as well. You're going to start making this, and it's going to start spreading, like it's going to start spreading to the others around you. And God, he says, in me, I can bring you joy and peace in me. And so my prayer today is this, that your joy and your peace with Jesus becomes the priority above trying to fix all the other stuff. Amen. Not saying you don't take practical steps, not saying you can just ignore it, but there's got to be a way that we take steps to do it. I kind of see this as this a proving ground. Brody and I were watching these movies the other day. Drink. And it was these old war movies. And what they had done is they colorized them. And there's like this World War II battle going through World War II. And they colorized these videos. And the really cool thing is, I'd seen these videos when I sat with my dad a long time ago. And you watch these videos, it's all black and white. And it's like, ooh, big, ooh, nice, really puffy little steam going off in the air. And then they colorized it. And you see this billowing flames going. But the most cool part, they colorized the people. And you could see the flesh. You could see the color of their eyes. It was amazing. And we sat there and we watched like 5 or 6 episodes in a row because we couldn't turn off. Because in the midst of seeing the reality, they had these guys who were there and they're telling their war stories. How many people like hearing war stories? They were war stories. These guys, they were battle tested. They'd had live rounds flying by their heads. And we were like, that's awesome. You couldn't stop listening. And so it's kind of like the same thing. When we go through these moments of hard times, these bad days, we become battle tested. You look at somebody who's gone through something, and you're like going, I could follow that person into war. I could take a hill with that person because they've been through it. They've had live rounds. They've dealt with death. They've lost a kid. They've lost a marriage. That's who I want to hear from. And that's how God starts to take this. And as you see the peace grow in that person, here's the same thing that starts happening. When the peace starts growing in that person, it starts going out to other people and spreading peace and joy to people instead of the destruction of the bad days. And so that's what we're looking for today. We need some battle-tested people that are willing to share their stories, who understand the peace. But we have to be working on it ourselves. I'm not there with David. I'm not there. I'm still struggling. What do I do to fix David's life? And when I can't, how do I help David become closer to Christ? Well, I probably should have picked him up this morning out of the field and brought him to church. Probably would have worked. Probably would have been a good idea. So that's the battle. As we go on a little bit more, and this is the part that comes to the application. And it is this. A faith that has been tested can be trusted, and it prepares you for your purpose. Your faith being tested prepares you for your purpose. I'm in prepared stage. I've dealt with people like David before. I thought I would be able to handle this one. This one's been a little harder than the others. I've dealt with homeless guys before. I've had some success stories. This one, not so much. It's a battle because as you get prepared, you think that the next one's going to be easy, but here's the issue. God prepares you to get to here, to be the entry level to help this situation, but he's probably going to use the next one to even grow you more to get ready for the next one. And I'd love to tell you that it's like you hit this peak and everything, God goes, you have arrived, you are now, everything's going to be great for you. But he says, you're going to have weeping, you're going to mourn, you're going to have trials, you're going to have troubles in this world. They're going to be there. He doesn't say, after 5-10 years of doing it, you're going to get the holy, you're going to get there, everything's going to be perfect then. In this world, while we walk this planet, there's going to be trials and tribulations. But in me, I will help you find joy and peace in the midst of it. So I can tell you, money doesn't bring you happiness. You know a lot of rich people that kill themselves. You read the news. Wealthy, famous, they got it all off themselves. You know, you have friends who look like everything was perfect, and then their marriage divorces. They get divorced, and they're cut down in half. That big, beautiful house doesn't look good as in half as it used to when it gets cut in half. All that stuff that you think is going to bring you the happiness won't work. But living in a life, understanding who Jesus was, what he did for you, can bring the joy and the peace in your life. Let me kind of wrap up a little bit here because you're going to have to help me do something. Let me show you this passage. This is out of, good luck trying to find this one. 1 John chapter 5, verse 4 says this. For everyone born of God overcomes the world. This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith. Who is it that overcomes the world? Only the ones who believe that Jesus is the Son of God. See, the pain and stuff's not going to be going away. But we live with a life and an expectation that ours doesn't end here. The joys and the struggles here are going to be temporary. We're looking long term. Like that moment of childbirth, there's a lot of pain involved. But after that, there's a joy and a relief. There's just appreciation for everything that's taken place in your life. There's joy. In the moment, it stinks. In the end, it's great. So as we kind of think through this process, where are you in your faith? Here's the struggle. Just like I told you, there's those battle-tested people out there, those soldiers, those warriors out there that you saw that are battle-tested. There's also this group, and maybe you've watched them on some videos. They're called people who have stolen valor. And what they are is they're guys who never were in the military or they were like really low in the military. And they go and they put on all these different medals. They put on all this stuff and they look really sharp. They got their uniforms on and they're walking in. They're going into like elementary school. So everybody goes, oh, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. And they never stepped a day on a battlefield. Someone put on different, they have medals that say that they gave themselves, they sacrificed something, they saved someone else, and they walk around. But the funny part is this. In these videos, normally, it'll show a real soldier that walks up to him and in a matter of just minutes, shreds them. Where did you come? Where was your base? Who is your commanding officer? What are your MOs or something like that? MOS. And these guys, they don't know them. They're frauds. It's stolen valor. They're trying to steal something that wasn't theirs. Now, my problem is this. Many of us as Christians, we do the same thing. We walk through life and we think, look at me. Look what I've done. But after just a few questions, you know that they're a fraud. Many of us have walked through life, and I'm challenging you here. And I'm throwing myself on the bus with you, or under the bus, or I should say. We walk through our faith. We avoid anything that's troublesome. Like the world, we have made shortcuts around things. We've only been friends with people who like us. We've not forgiven the people who hurt us. We've not done anything to really reach out to share Christ with somebody. It's just like being stolen valor. You're wearing the title. You're wearing the uniform, but you're not battle tested. I will say this, if your life has been so easy and so perfect, I almost challenge you, you might be living a stolen valor life. Because if you're in the trenches with what God wants, he says flat out, there's going to be trials. There's going to be tribulation. There's going to be issues. And it's going to prepare you to be the person that God wants you to be to build the kingdom of God. And so if you're going through trials and troubles, you might be, that's good. If your life is so easy and you avoid everything, you don't have any troubles in your life, I'll challenge you. You might need to get some trenches. You might need to take off the medals and get back to basics training. Because that's what life is, it's basic training. My kids, I want to prepare them to be men and women of God forever, not just while they're in high school. So that is a challenge. John 16:33 says this. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome this world. Our God is greater than your struggles. Our God is the one who can help you through them, even the ones that are life-threatening. I look at life and I think, when you get to a little bit older, some of us, you have friends who die. And I don't want to die. I talk to my mom. She's ready. And you think about that. She's like, I'm ready to be with Jesus. I hope I can get to that point. And I hope I can be able to stand before somebody and say that. I'm ready to be with my Jesus. That is what we are striving for, to have that kind of peace and joy in the midst of this, but to know there's something far beyond this that you're still waiting for with anticipation. And that makes this pain and this trouble just short term. Real, I'm not being flippant. I know how real it is. But I'm trying to change our perspective. I'm not sure what we're going to do with David. I'm wrestling. I'm open to ideas, actually. I'm open to your input. If we leave here, if you got ideas, you got things we can do, great. David has a few things in his life that are keeping David where he's at. He has 2 dogs. He has a bunch of baggage. Until those things go away, until he can surrender those, he's going to be stuck. So my challenge, though, is to you this today. What baggage are you carrying that keeps you from making the progress to get out of your bad days? What are the things that you're carrying around and holding on to because you think you're so dear to you, but in reality, the people around you are going, it's time to let go of those. I want to help you, but I can't until you let go. What are they in your life? They're probably not physical things. It's probably unforgiveness. It's probably some bitterness from something that happened 15 years ago. But if you're honest, it's keeping you in your bad day. As we close today, I just want to pray that maybe today you'll understand another step deeper of what it means to live in me. Not me, Jesus. They'll know another day what it's like to be a little step closer to that freedom of peace and joy. Even in the midst of the garbage that's going on. I know, I do. What's holding you back? What luggage is keeping you sleeping in a field? It's time to get out of it. Don't have time to go into all the blessings that God has for us. We talked about the sad and the scary because that's my topic for the day. But there's a lot of blessings in the Bible that we gain. There's a lot of promises of God that are incredible. So this isn't for nothing. We get to live in the Father's house.